Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Speaker today is Shendrup Gyatso. Come up from San Jose to be with us today. Just got back from the U.S. and parts of Canada for this lecture teaching on climate, and his subject today is creating lasting happiness.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Wow. Let me just take a second to gather you all in. Wow. Thank you all for being here. This is going to get warm. I'm going to get informal with you guys. I don't glow well. It was quite an honor to be here, and I thank Tom for calling. Some of you may have read the article in the Chronicle that ran at the beginning of July about the meeting with the Dalai Lama, and it was quite a meeting. When I went into the meeting with the Dalai Lama, it was as an observer. I was neither on his side, to take sides on his side, or the gay representative side. I was just there as an observer, and just to see what was going on, because I was very curious as to what was going on. And after the meeting, the representatives of the gay community asked me to participate with them, even though the rules that they were discussing didn't directly pertain to me. I have a different set of rules to abide by. But if you have any questions, there will be a question portion this morning. If you have any questions about that, please ask them, or any questions about the sutras that I'll be reading this morning. But we'll start with the reading from the sutras, the words of the Buddha from different sutras, and then I'll share a little bit from my experience. In the Nyingma tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, it's customary that the teacher has to have personal experience of what he or she is teaching before he's qualified to teach it. And it's not just enough to have book knowledge. You have to have personal experience from your own life before you're qualified. And so I'll teach a little bit from my life and read some of the words of Shakyamuni. Please make it pertinent to your life, and don't think it's necessarily fire and brimstone. Suffering in this life becomes suffering in the next. The one who does evil suffers both. When you see how impure your actions have been, you will suffer. You will be tormented. That's why I said that. It's a little crazy. Rejoicing in this life becomes rejoicing in the next. The one who rejoices in both will rejoice in the next. When you see how pure your actions have been, you will be happy, you will rejoice. The evildoer may appear to be good before the harmful act matures, but when the deed has ripened, then the wicked are revealed. The good may appear to be evil before the good act matures, but But when the deed has ripened, then the good are revealed. Do not think lightly of evil. If you think, what harm is this? Surely no harm will come to me. Consider how a water jar is filled by falling drops of water. The fool becomes filled with depravity, accumulated little by little. Do not think lightly of merit. If you think, what benefit is this? Surely no merit will come to me. Consider how a water jar is filled by falling drops of water. And so the wise accomplish merit, accumulated little by little. Do not reflect upon the missteps of others, their deeds and misdeeds, but rather look upon what you yourself have done and left undone. Like beautiful flowers that have not fragrance, fine words which are not acted upon are fruitless. Like beautiful flowers with both color and scent, fine words which are acted upon will bear fruit. Until an evil action ripens, the fool may find it sweet as honey. But when the evil comes to fruition, then the fool is certain to suffer. An evil deed is like milk. It may not turn sour right away. An evil deed smolders like buried coals that will burn you at a later date. Farmers direct the flow of water. Arrowsmiths straighten the arrow shaft. Carpenters fashion wood. And the wise work on themselves. Like that one. If your actions are producing merit, repeat them again and again. Set your heart on virtue. Virtue's outcome is delight. If in seeking happiness you never harm others who also seek to be happy, in the future happiness will come to you. The greedy will not find their way to the heaven realms, but those who delight in giving the doctrine will find joy in the life to come. It is the fool who does not see the good in giving. Do not do anything harmful. Do only what is good. Discipline your own mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. In case you didn't notice, those were kind of heavy and mostly about karma and the ripening of karma. A lot of times what we think of as karma when we hear somebody say, oh, that's bad karma, it's their dog got run over by somebody's karma, or something like, it's something bad happened, a bad breakup, whatever. And so, that's their karma. And we usually think of it as something that's only bad. But the sutras tell us, especially in the Abhidharma Sutra, that there are every second we are producing as many as 65 little karmas every second. Because karma is thought, karma is action. And when we think, when we have motion in our mind, we are creating karma. A second of anger produces 65 little bitty anger karmas, that can add up. I mean, that stuff adds up. It adds up really fast. Can you imagine if you're pissed off at somebody for a week? Yeah, one moment of anger is enough to send you into the hell realm. So, you just gotta be careful. Pick your boyfriends carefully. Ones that won't get you angry. Yeah, that's really scary stuff. Karma wouldn't function if there weren't emptiness. Everything has to be dependent on everything else. And you wouldn't have results being related to actions if things weren't interdependent. And so the principle of emptiness is very important. And I'm going to read just a little bit from the Heart Sutra. It's pretty long. I have a lot of time today. So this is Shakyamuni speaking to Shariputra, one of his monks. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so forth up to no mind element, and also up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death, and no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there is no suffering, origin, cessation, or path. Did you get that? There is no path. No exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing utterly beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all the Buddhas who reside perfectly in these three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest and completely Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal to the unequaled mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it is not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. If we can think about what it would be like to not rely on externals, to not rely on crutches. You know, lots of times I hear, this is my path, and just people get so. It's important to have a path. I'm not saying don't have a path, a personal path. We all have to have our path, and those who have taken refuge, whatever you do after that is your path. So it gets sticky sometimes, and it's really important to know that once we've taken refuge, it's kind of like getting married, only there's no divorce. You got married to the Buddha when you took refuge, and that's it. It's one time this lifetime, and that's your path. So we rely on externals. We rely on crutches. If I were to say, Michael, who are you? You say, well, I'm a man. Oh, really? Okay. Who are you? Except for that. Well, my name is Michael. Here's my driver's license. It says so. Right? It's like, not really. What if I took that away? Who are you? Well, I'm my credit cards. Here's my Platinum American Express card. It makes, I get really good service when I use this. It's like, what if I took that away? Who are you? And if we take everything away, what is left? What is left? What's left is mind. And what the Buddha said there was, mind is it. There's nothing outside. We can't rely on our senses. We can't rely on our lives to give us a context. We have to just work on our minds constantly. And how do we do that? We do that in meditation. I'll read one of the Jataka. I pronounce it Jataka tales. I don't know how anybody pronounces it. One of the stories from the Buddha's previous lives. It's called The Farmer's Pure Offering. When the Bhagwan was abiding in Shravasti, a very poor Brahmin named Svastika, a man with no wealth at all, was trying to make a living as a farmer. Though he constantly worked the land, plowing and weeding, the crops would not ripen, and he grew more and more disheartened. One day he saw the Buddha going to beg alms in the city, and he conferred with his wife. Because we are so poor, we are unable to give anything at all to the Buddha. This misfortune must have come from not making offerings in our previous lives. We did not accumulate merit, and this is the result. Our karma is so wretched that we have only rags to wear and the poorest food to eat. This low way of living is like being dead. What is the value in it? If we now offer whatever we have to the Buddha, later we may obtain a little result. And so the Brahmin's wife returned home to cook and prepare whatever edible food they had left. The Buddha, seeing their pure mind, came to the door and was offered food. The Brahmin couple made a wishing prayer to be freed from poverty and to obtain wealth. From then on, sheaves of gold grew in their fields, and from that gold they became prosperous. They made wonderful offerings to the victorious one in the assembly, and after listening to the Dharma, they became stream winners. Whoever saw their good fortune rejoiced at such merit, inspiring King Prasnajit also to make offerings to the Buddha in the assembly. Seeing the truth, the Brahmin became a monk and then an arhat. When the monks asked the cause of these occurrences, the Buddha replied, "Long ago, during the time of Buddha Kashyapa, this Brahmin lived in purity, following the path of celibacy and restraint. Such was his purity that he was honored by Vishnu and other similar gods, and the Buddha made a prophecy that he would become an arhat in the presence of Buddha Shakyamuni. When the Buddha finished his teaching, all present in the assembly greatly rejoiced." What I see, and the reason that I chose this particular story, it's very short. It's only 4 paragraphs, and it demonstrates the power of giving and giving gladly. It also demonstrates the power of aspiration prayers. When Tom asked me for a little bit of my background to put in the newsletter, I told him that I had been ordained as a Pentecostal minister more than 8 years ago. And actually, I still hold my credentials, so I'm still a Pentecostal minister. But I don't preach anymore. I was very skeptical when I first came to hear the teachings of the Buddha. And I listened very carefully. I heard promises of that you'll be happy. I was very unhappy at the time. And I said, yeah, right, yeah, right. And I met Lama Tarchin Rinpoche down in Santa Cruz, near Santa Cruz, at his retreat center. And I took my concerns to him and, said that I liked what I was hearing, but, I don't know, if this is something that's for me. And I was given a small practice to do. And he said, you do this, that'll be the result. Come back when it happened, And it was about being not depressed. It was a way to alleviate depression. And I did it, and it alleviated depression. It was amazing. And so I was a little less skeptical, especially about the Buddhist teachings. Probably still skeptical and cynical about the rest of life, but this had made just a little dent. And so I started reading, and I read the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, and I did the practices that Sogyal Rinpoche talks about in there. And my life got a little more better, I had done lots of different seminars and programs and all sorts of things to try to alleviate this difficulty that I had, and nothing seemed to work. And the teachings of the Buddha seemed to do that for me. And not too long after that, I fell on some pretty hard times. I was living in my car. I had lost all of my possessions, given most of them away because I saw that they were strangling me. But it was really difficult living in my car, having had a 2-bedroom house full of stuff, and then living in my car. And I went back to Lama Tarchin and said, this is what's going on, what's up? And he gave me a practice. He said, here, do this, see what happens. And so I practiced, And it was a generosity practice, and I got an apartment, I got a job, things started flowing again, but it took some initiative on my part, to go out and search for the teachings that would help me in that particular place. And this farmer was actually quite wise. He looked at his situation. I didn't understand emptiness at all. I didn't understand how karma worked. I didn't know all of the nuts and bolts. All I knew was what my teacher told me. And what was important was that he knew how karma worked. And so he had me start to plant seeds that would bring about the result that I wanted. And if we plant seeds of negativity, seeds of anger, they will ripen later and, give us conditions later that will cause more anger and more strife. And it really does feed on itself. But it works the other way too. That if we plant seeds of happiness, seeds of generosity, seeds of love, those will bloom and give us happiness, which will help us plant more seeds of happiness and love and generosity. It works both directions. It's not always a downward spiral.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I find that the concept of karma is often so laden with sense of punishment. I must have done this, and therefore I'm suffering so much now. And I like the idea that what you put out, it just gets reflected back. I think of karma as that. And oftentimes there is a big gap of time. But if you could speak a little bit about how to sort of extricate the stuff of punishment and perhaps guilt or sort of the negative psychological stuff that you put with it, that would be helpful for me to just look at it a little bit more objectively or in a better way.
Sure. The first thing to understand is that every moment of our lives is a result of a previous moment. There had to be a previous moment for there to be a present moment. And the moment previous to that had to exist for that previous moment to exist. And so back through the eons and kalpas. I'm not sure what... it's a long time. I call a kalpa the space of time between big bangs. It's a long time. Okay, so it's we've been here for billions and billions and billions of years, and so there's lots of karma that we've accumulated, as shrimp and as whales and as hell beings and as gods. We've inhabited all the 6 realms in every possible imaginable way, and we are in our present state, the human state, as a result of some very meritorious action on our part, somewhere, sometime, in some previous incarnation. Karma ripens in different ways. Karma ripens, John Lennon talked about instant karma. Instant karma is I punch you, you punch me. That's right there, That's instant karma. Instant karma, you get angry, you get deluded, and you run out in the street and get hit by a truck. That's instant karma. Things like that happen. Also, karma can ripen very slowly over, millennia. You don't know where what just happened to you came from. You can't know that unless you're omniscient. You cannot know. And once you're omniscient, you don't have any karma anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So once we acknowledge that every moment that we are experiencing came from a previous moment, that every effect that we are experiencing right now came from a previous cause, we can see, I broke my leg. I don't know why I broke my leg. There's something in my past, as a stream of consciousness, something in my past that caused me to have this injury. Doesn't matter what it was. because I'm human and, I'm on a path, I have the capability of choosing how to react. We have choice. Every second we have choice. And we can choose to plant a positive seed, or we could choose to plant a negative seed. Right there. It's like, okay, I'm accepting this as my responsibility, whatever just happened. Good or bad. That's important. Good or bad. You just, found a $1,000 bill on the street. Nobody's around looking for it. You got to make sure nobody's around looking for it, guys. It's just there. You deserve that. You deserve that. You did something sometime in the past that caused this effect. It doesn't matter what it was, and you should rejoice in that. And when your associates, any of your friends, business colleagues, has a good, sells a house, or whatever business you're in, has a successful day, rejoice. You get the merit of whatever they did. If you rejoice in their happiness, in their accomplishment, you get the merit too. So you're planting a seed as a result of somebody else's thing. You don't have to have a lot of good stuff. I'm sorry to point at you all the time. You don't have to have a lot of good stuff going on in your life to get the merit from other people's good stuff. You can have the most shitty life around, and just go around and rejoicing in other people's happiness. That plants seeds just as if it were happening to you. Just as if it were happening to you. Yeah.
The problem I have with karma, as you describe it, the concept of karma, is it's very easy. I think it's very easy to just take that viewpoint and get seduced into the viewpoint of emotional coldness. Like people in Africa are starving because they brought it on themselves because of their own negative karma in the past, or people who are indulging in great wealth and abundance in Africa. They deserve it. They earned it. And they shouldn't feel guilty about the inequities of resources that they're enjoying at this time. And I feel uncomfortable about that attitude. It seems like there's a smugness. There can be a smugness about it, or it can be, well, why should I feel compassion for you? You brought this on yourself. Even when circumstances might be totally outside the immediate result of actions of the person.
Yeah.
Since it's tragedy of some sort.
Yeah, I can understand that. What's happening there is there's a blending, a mixing up of two completely separate phenomena. Okay, you've got the effect of a previous cause for somebody else. I always get the baby that dies on the airplane, whatever. What about the children that drove off the cliff in a bus? What did they do? They're innocent. And sure, this incarnation, this body was innocent. What did Princess Diana do, to deserve getting smushed in a Mercedes? Probably not much in this lifetime. She seemed like a really great woman. She did some amazing things. This lifetime. Something somewhere in the past created that result. Something she did in the past created the result of being born into the Spencer family and marrying into the Windsor family and having two beautiful sons and an amazing house and, a life any princess here would, envy. So she had, it's mixed. Every second, like I said, every second we have 65 little karmas happening. Every second we have 65 little karmas ripening. We don't know. You could get find a $1,000 bill and they get hit by a truck. We don't know. So you have the functioning of karma that is functioning inside of emptiness. Does anybody here not understand emptiness? On an intellectual, just on an intellectual level. I'm not asking you to fade out or something, Okay, we've all had teachings on emptiness at some level. Okay, so everything is dependent on everything else, and so you've got the law of karma, right? It's happening. It can be demonstrated. Okay, it was demonstrated in my life to me. Separately from that, you have responsibility. There is no connection between those two things, what happened and what you do. You can choose when you see the starving children in Africa and Sally Struthers going on and on and on, to save the children or not. That's your choice. And if you've taken bodhisattva vows and you decide that's what I'm going to do, even if you haven't taken bodhisattva vows and that's what you want to do, then do it. And you are planting a good seed. You are planting positive karma. You are helping those who are suffering. There is nothing wrong with the Vanderbilts having their fortune. I had a really difficult time with the conspicuous consumption era, especially, in the 20s and then again in the 90s or the 80s. It was, it's just, there's too much, Bill Gates did something wonderful sometime, he saved the life of a Buddha. Who knows, but he's also gotten the negative part of having too much wealth. The man is miserable. The man is miserable. His net worth goes up $2 billion in 1 week, and he's still miserable. Give it to me. Give it to me. I'll do something with it. Whatever. But those are two separate things. We can't judge. The people who do get what they got what they got because of something that happened before, that they currently have no control over. All they can control is their future.
So what is the purpose of karma?
I don't know that there is a purpose. It's just an observation that I think it's maybe a balance. If you had to assign a purpose, it would be a balance. It would be the middle way. That there's got to be, for every action, there's got to be an equal and opposite reaction. But with karma, it doesn't have to be equal. It usually is opposite, though. It doesn't have to be equal. Did I answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, as well as a short answer to
Okay. Yeah, and if any of you, I do email. If any of you have questions that didn't get answered here that come up later, I'll leave my email address, and I'd be happy to correspond via email. It might not be right away, but I love doing email. What's important, and to finish answering your first question, what's important is to look at what we have control over. We don't have control over the past. We don't have control over the seeds we have planted in the past. What we do have control over is how they ripen, when they ripen, and the seeds that we plant today. There are ways of delaying karma from ripening. If you think about an airport, right, there's a line of the airplanes getting ready, taxiing onto the runway. Right, especially at SFO, 10 planes. Okay? Imagine those as little karmic seeds getting ready to fly off and ripen and crash into your life, right? Okay?
Sure.
You can't, so some of us have lives like that. You can plant a seed. You can launch your own good airplane, right? Seriously good airplane. And if it's an immediate kind of karma that ripens really quickly, it gets first dibs. It gets to cut in that line and ripen first. Okay? So, there are several different ways to create those kinds of karmas. I'm sure all of you can find use for more money in your lives. Yeah? It's okay to have money, guys, and be Buddhist. Okay? If it weren't for the kings of India, the Buddha wouldn't have been able to teach. Would not have been able to teach. The kings gave lots of land, lots of wealth so that he could support his monks and nuns and give the teaching. So it's okay to have money. Just why do we have money? Okay? I'm going to finish this one. Be right with you. So the way to get that airplane at the front of the line and to keep doing that, if you can keep good karmas cutting in front of the line, those bad karmas won't ever ripen. Won't ever ripen until you get enlightened and then they go away. Okay? So the idea is to keep those planes coming in the front of the line. You do a good action. You do a good action fervently. Okay? And it's not about a contrived kind of thing, right? When I see Lama Tarchin's picture, this is Lama Tarchin. Some of you may have seen him, okay? When I was fighting back tears earlier, okay? When I talk about him or think about him or look at his picture, he is the most important person to me. Okay? And it's about the teachings. It's not about the personality, Lama Tarchin, but it's about the teachings and his love for me. And when I do something for him, right? When I get offerings, I tithe. I use that good old Christian system. I tithe. I take 10% of the offerings I get and I offer it to Lama Tarchin. When I do that, I don't have to generate intense emotions about that. That's just, I'm just so glad that I can help him with whatever he's doing. It's a little piddly amount, He doesn't need the money. But it's something that I'm doing, and there's already fervent, devotion there. If I can generate that in everything that I do, you don't have to be, emotional weeping messes all the time. But in everything that you do. So Sally Struthers comes on, and says, I really want to help these children. When you're writing out that check, I know this is going to make a big difference. And, just put emotion into it. Know that you're helping them. Know that you're doing a good thing. So do a good thing. Have fervent emotion about it. Know that you're generating good karma for yourself. It's okay to know that. It's okay to do good things because you know it's going to have good results. You don't have to make yourself ignorant of that or pretend that it's not going to happen, okay? Because it will. And do it toward an important object. What you're giving to needs, if you want to get in front of the line, it's okay to give to other things, but give to a big project. Give to, a stupa or building a monastery or translating an important text or, supporting an amazing teacher coming, like Pema Chodron is coming in a couple weeks, or, Thich Nhat Hanh is touring, support those kinds of things. And if you do those three things, I guarantee, and call me if it doesn't happen, I guarantee that it'll turn around. It'll turn around. Okay? From my personal experience, and I have not forgotten you, from my personal experience, I prayed very, very fervently and made an offering. There's a teacher in town. He's teaching tonight in Palo Alto. If you want these kind of results in your life, go down to Palo Alto. I'll give you directions. We had a divination from this Tibetan Lama down in Santa Cruz. His name was Namkar Drime Rinpoche. I made an offering to him of $10 with the intention that it would be multiplied 100-fold. Made the offering, prayed fervently, knew that it was going to, an incredible Lama would make, a difference in his life, and had lots of emotion about it. Those three things, right? Incredible Lama, prayed fervently. What was the third one? I get all. What was it? Knew that it would make a difference. Okay, those three things. Okay? 2 days later, I'm sitting on IRC, Internet Relay Chat, right? Some people think that that's child's play, waste of time. Okay? I get a message from somebody saying, I want to give you my car. Really? That's really cool. It's like, I know what you're doing with your temple in San Jose. I think it's great. I'm getting a new car. I want to give you my car. It's a 4-year-old Volkswagen, totally fully loaded. I want to give you my car. I'll be driving out in November to give you my car. $6,000 car, $10 offering. Okay? $10 offering. There is no happenstance. There is no luck either. There is no luck either. Period. It's karma. There is no luck. If you're unlucky, if you go to Vegas, I have vows about going to Vegas. I can't go there. So, but if you go to Vegas and, play the slot machine and you hit $1 million jackpot, it's because of something. It's not luck. So before you go to Vegas, make an offering, pray fervently. Okay? I want you to be really rich. I think it's wonderful, to give. And the more you generate generosity in your life, the more it will come back to you. And it's okay to know that. It's okay to do it because of that. Okay? The intention of the Buddha, when he taught, was that we would be able to seek happiness and find it. The ultimate happiness is enlightenment. It's okay to have relative happiness in the meantime. We don't have to be miserable. Okay? You don't have to be miserable to be a good Buddhist. All right? I promise. I absolutely promise. Okay. All right. You guys are... Please.
I really want to appreciate Clint's question, and I find your answer facile and unconscious of history. I've been working around the global economy for several years, the role of institutions. And since the days of enslavement, Africa has been sucked dry by the West and the North. And that is being continued by policies of the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, our government. Sally Struthers is trying to put Band-Aids on a structural issue. And I think you are in denial and to say that what is happening, or to imply that there is no responsibility of the bankers in Manhattan for what is happening with starvation in Africa, I think if this is what Buddhism is, I don't want it.
Okay. That's not what I said. That's what you heard. And the responsibility lies on the people who are having the problems. The responsibility for the current problem, right? If the people born in Africa are born in Africa for a reason. They're either born into, the Mobutu family, or they're born, into a peasant family. They're born into, a white family in South Africa or a black family in Soweto. Okay, so what is it that governed that birth? I don't know. They don't know either. Okay, so there were causes that created the effect, whatever that effect was. Okay, the laws of karma are absolute. It's not. It doesn't. It's the law isn't lifted in Africa. Okay.
Use Mobutu as an example. And here is a man who was a robber.
Okay. Right. But do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
Okay, you don't.
Because you're saying like what's happening.
I'm saying that the reason that there are conditions, the reason the conditions are there, is because of some previous action. If it's our responsibility as Buddhists to have compassion for those people, how we take action on that is our responsibility. Okay? If you feel so fervently about this, get some guys in this room, put together a group, raise money, and go make a real difference. I don't know. But what I'm saying, I'm not excusing what people are doing. Okay? People who steal, people who, have evil actions, bankers who are, raping Africa, whoever's doing whatever they're doing are planting their own seeds. The cultures that are, you say draining Africa, I'm sure that's so. Those cultures are having karmic seeds planted. There's national karma, there is state karma, there's city karma, there's, Gay Buddhist Fellowship karma, there's whatever mandala that you are a part of has its own karma. So if something terrible happens to Tibet, these people have been Buddhists for 1,000 years. They've been practicing and praying and, generating all of this wonderful compassion, That's great. It's only 1,000 years. We're talking about countless eons that these things have been coming up. They were also, the most amazing, treacherous, bloodthirsty warriors Asia's ever seen, for 1,500, 2,000 years before that. So they've got some karma to deal with, and they understand that. I mean, I'm not excusing people's inaction. I'm not excusing people's action. I'm just saying that the conditions that are present are the result of some previous action. Period. What we do with that is up to us. And I'm not excusing anybody. That's actually really terribly wrong view to excuse that kind of thing, because a lot of times people will say, especially this is the case in Vajrayana, people will get a little bit of emptiness, and it's like, well, I can do whatever I want because it doesn't mean anything. It's all empty, so I can steal this, or I can, screw over that person, whatever. It's like, wrong. You can't do that because it's empty. That's why you can't do that. Because it's bad, and it's bad because it's going to make you unhappy, not because it's inherently bad. It's going to hurt other people, it's going to make you unhappy. Don't do that. So, my intention was not to come off being callous and dismissive. That was not my intention in describing those places. Sally Struthers is putting, a Band-Aid. She's doing something. She's putting a Band-Aid. She probably can't do a whole lot, but she's helping. Mother Teresa was putting a Band-Aid on Calcutta. She did a lot, but it was as much as she could do. We can only do as much as we can do. And if all of us just do as much as we can do, everything will get better. But we're not. Yeah.
The problem I have with the way you presented your talk is that the implication of what you say, and I think it's maybe not your intention to come to this conclusion, but I think a lot of people will hear this, that those who are rich because they've had merit, and those who are poor because they've had demerit. And I think I don't associate with that. I don't want to be associated with that view. And I want to say that publicly first, but also I think it's overly simplistic, because being poor, being disabled, having terrible worldly problems to deal with doesn't mean that that your spiritual life or your spiritual growth is less than somebody who is rich and healthy and beautiful. On the contrary, you may have more chance to achieve enlightenment if you are poor and disabled than if you're rich and beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's important. So that the rich and beautiful, Princess Diana may have had terrible karma to have been born into that life. And I just want to say this so that people don't come away thinking that being rich means that you've been good, and being poor means you've been bad.
It does mean exactly that, and that's exactly what Shakyamuni said. I mean, I'd be happy to give you the text. It's difficult to understand, and the only reason that it does make sense, at least to me and to my teachers, and apparently to Shakyamuni, is that karma operates from the beginningless beginning. How many billions of lifetimes have we had to accumulate 65 actions per second? And we don't know. We don't know what causes things. We know it's karma. We know there's something before. If we only look at the current lifetime, it makes no sense. Karma makes no sense if you only have one lifetime. It just doesn't. Why do babies die in car accidents? If you only have one lifetime, there's no answer. It's a mystery. If you have many lifetimes, billions of lifetimes to have accumulated your karma, it makes sense. And I don't know what caused, Princess Diana's accident. I don't know what causes anything. There are basic categories of causes that create certain effects. They're listed in the sutras. If you want to find out where those are listed, I'd be happy to point them out to you, but it's exhaustive. It's just huge. Yeah, Michael.
I'm just thinking, we're talking about distribution of wealth and a lot of people have the premise that life is unfair, rich and poor. And I know lots of wealthy people in San Francisco who, to me, it's the method, to me, that creates the karma. It's like I know wealthy people who are very together and spiritual and seem to be creating good karma over and over. And then I know the method of so many wealthy people, say just where we are, who their method is so off the wall that I think they are going to create
they're creating negative karma.
They create the karma.
Yeah.
65 seconds. They keep creating it for
their next lifetime or this lifetime.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's at our choice. No matter what our circumstances are, it's our choice at every moment to create whatever new cause we want to create. And you can, I talked about money, you can create it in love, you can create it in any area of your life if you give that way. Imagine if you gave yourself completely, to your boyfriend or your lover, absolutely, completely, with fervent emotion, and just totally, not all the time. Imagine what a relationship you would have. So that would be the instant kind of karma that would create a relationship. Maybe that's not the right person to be doing that with. But if you do that with the wrong person for long enough, either that person will change or will leave. And the one that would match what you're doing would come into your life. I didn't know this concept before I became a monk, I'll tell you. Because if I knew that, I would have had a boyfriend by now.
When you say the Wednesday is a karma yoga, people so regular. Besides that, they will never get it. Then we don't know again. Maybe it's an instant karma, a conscience that you have to live on that every moment, and this moment you will live on. Therefore, we can generate this good karma any level of our situation. Forget the karma moment, but the good thing that we generate out. One thing we know for sure to gain, to feel that moment is our own conscience. You can sleep better because you have a set full on a good conscience that will to project it out, healthy karma. Forget the karma for a moment, but that moment that you generate that good karma out. You can feel it. How much you can feel again your own consciousness. That's the more first thing I would count on first. But I don't know what karma work, but definitely work. If there's a matter, I work perfect to me. So obviously, recently I've been working for a company. I'm doing freelance. I didn't know this what company does. I won't mention that name. After I accepted the job, I was first time I walked in and said, ouch. The company who involved with the nuclear weaponry with the government before. I don't know about your thinking. Definitely, I'm not going to work for this company for sure. Even they can pay me good handsome of salary. It's against their own conscience. That's good enough. At that time, no choice. I'm desperate for money. I stayed with them for 6 months. I said, bye. I gained the conscience back because I cannot live under that conscience, knowing that what this company supports, and here I am, work for them. I can get over my own consciousness. You can call karma, whatever, but my own conscience that can see, I can feel it. That's what I say.
Yeah. I do empathize with what you gentlemen are pointing at. I really do. I may not be speaking myself as well as I hope. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I always have a little bit of mistrust when somebody says this is what the Buddha said, because it sometimes is what the Tibetans said the Buddha said, or the Japanese said the Buddha said. I think it is a very big challenge to reach back to the basic truths and find those. I think you always have to go through your own process of doing that. So when things about karma and about the Indian take on karma, I always sort of wonder, where that fits. I guess one of the things I object to, I several things I really think are very good that you said about the acceptance and how you create instant karma every moment, and so on, your responsibility for doing that. But from the sense it comes collectively to you, and then you have an individual responsibility as you create new karma. Certainly Africa is part of the karma of the British Empire. And they'll suffer with that piece of the karma that came to them for many centuries maybe, as they work through it. So it comes as a vast interactive whole to us. And so I guess maybe the thing I object to a little bit is the stress on that individually something happened in your past karma that resulted individually in you being in a certain place. Actually, you're the result of a vast amount of karma by many different people, many different societies, and so on.
Sure.
And the key is that at the moment of this moment, you then have the responsibility to decide what karma you're going to add to that mix. So I think there's one-on-one that somehow I did something good and that's why I'm rich.
You're exactly right. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that you did. It may be something that you participated in, or you were part of a society that did something. But what happened before is really irrelevant. Is absolutely irrelevant, except when you want to look at which actions to avoid when creating a new cause. And you just need to look at pretty much your refuge vows, and the five precepts. And if you abstain from the 10 non-virtues and things like that, that would generally keep you from having problems. But it's not necessarily something that you as an identity, because you as an identity doesn't exist, right? Not something that you did necessarily. It's
It's about 12 after 12. Gone over a little bit. I'm wondering what the consensus is and what we'd like to. Should we stop or should we go on?
Before we stop, I'd like to hear something about meeting with the Dalai Lama.
The meeting with the Dalai Lama. Well, it began with the night before. Many of us that were in this group met to look at how we were going to approach the meeting, and we had worked out our whole strategy. We got in there, and he, of course, just threw it all up in the air and said, "Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll run this meeting like I want to run it." And he just started in, explained what the texts were, explained why he thought the way he thought, and basically what the consensus was at the end was that he saw the rules. These particular rules are located several places within the text, especially in the Abhidharma, on sexual misconduct and what constitutes sexual misconduct. There are 4 categories of things that qualify a particular act as sexual misconduct: proper partner, proper time, proper place, and proper organ. And according to those 4 rules, the only acceptable sexual activity is heterosexual vaginal intercourse in the bedroom at night.
That's nice.
Not during menstruation, not during whatever. I mean, just, rules. So those of us who got involved with Tibetan Buddhism or any other form of Buddhism without knowing what those rules were, it's not a surprise, because this is what he later said, that there are 2 types of rules within the Tibetan scriptures. Those that he called natural, and I shy away from using that word too much just because it sounds like genetic, right? So there are rules that are inherently there because they are inherently the things that they're prescribing are inherently bad, and there are things that are societally bad. So laws on our books that would say don't murder somebody, that's inherently bad. It's inherently bad. It's going to kill somebody else. That's a bad thing, right? We all agree on that. It's not just a societal value. It's actually hurting somebody else. if you drive over 55 on a freeway that still says 55, that's societally bad. We've all agreed that this is a vehicle code, that's how fast you should drive. It's a societal rule. It's not something that's inherently going to hurt somebody. It may impair you, or your ability to react, whatever the reasons were, but it's not inherently bad. So you have inherently bad and not inherently bad. And he said that maybe the rules regarding time, place, partner, and part are societal rules and were written for that particular time. And he gave one example that's been used several times of that the rule is that it's not sexual misconduct to use a prostitute as long as it's only a two-party transaction. You can't pay the pimp and have the pimp pay the prostitute, which was to protect the woman because the women had to care for children and, she needed all the money. So that was a rule. And he said that rule probably doesn't pertain today. So because there are rules that don't pertain because the society is different, it may be that all of the rules or some of the rules don't pertain because the society is different. They just don't make sense anymore. And that was pretty much where he left it. He said that if there are 10 non-virtues that we should abstain from. One of them is sexual misconduct. He said if you are abstaining from the other 9 out of 10 ain't bad. It's not a big deal. Lama Yeshe, Lama Thupten Yeshe, I only know about the Tibetan teachers that have talked about this. Lama Thupten Yeshe said, as long as you turn it into wisdom, it doesn't matter what you do. Period. And that was on a question of oral sex. There's a story of turn it into wisdom, guys. Okay, there are other teachers who have spoken on this issue. Lama Yeshe, when he was introduced to the Castro by some of his gay San Franciscan students, was asked when he got back by his non-gay San Francisco students what did he think about the Castro? And he said, well, the male homosexuals are much more attractive than the female homosexuals. So that was his opinion on the Castro. So, it's not, and they took him to the bars. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What matters is in here. Is it an interaction that's loving, even if it's just a one-night stand? Is it an interaction that's loving? Is it somebody that may, if you hit it off, how many times have we had one-night stands that have turned into relationships? Is it something that's going to be possibly rewarding for you? Is it, are you hurting yourself? Are you hurting somebody else? Unless that's what you really want to do. Just look at that. Just look at that and be mindful. That's what it's about. It's not about the rules and parts and that kind of stuff. And so what's happening, he worked with us, strategized with us on how to bring about a sexual ethic that will work for the 21st century for all of us. And given that he is only presiding over the Tibetan tradition, he made very clear to us that he has no ability to make any edicts. He can't even make edicts for the Tibetans. But what he did say was work with the other traditions, work together to get a conference, build a consensus, and write a new ethic. And there is precedent in the past for those kinds of things, for major doctrinal reconfigurations. But
I disagree with that. The way to make this rule. I think, to me, I've grown under Buddhism. I'm Buddhist all my life. I think as a Buddhism, they have no judgment or any decision maker whatsoever for people, sex life, period. But that's one religious part. For us, as a lay practice, why we put this question to religious people to give us the answer? Yeah,
I agree.
Do you ever sort of follow the teaching that as long as you don't harm, don't cheat, don't lie? That's all about. Yeah. Don't hurt anybody. And why we bother to put this question to the religion, expecting the answer to the right answer, what we want to hear. If the answer that we want to hear, we say that's not make sense. Why we put this predicament situation to our own? Therefore, I don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't relate it nothing to do with my medical business.
There you go.
Yeah, we really have to stop it.
That's fine.
20 minutes over, people are starting to leave. I wonder if we could end formally, go out in the hall and have our tea hour and people could continue this conversation out there.
Sure. Yeah. Basically what it is just a removal of a blue law. Just because it's not enforced doesn't mean it's not there. And some Buddhists have a difficulty with having the rules being there and they're not obeying the rules. They would rather change the rules than break the rules. But thank you very much. Okay. Is it taping now?
Yeah.
Okay. My email address is rimeidzong, RIMEDZONG @AOL.com.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.